What happens when a beloved Hollywood icon walks onto a talk show stage expecting lighthearted banter, and instead collides with a storm he never saw coming? Before we dive into the moment that left the studio breathless, make sure you subscribe to Stage View and like and comment right now so you never miss these explosive Hollywood moments as they unfold. The cameras were already rolling when Ryan Reynolds' footsteps echoed behind the curtain of The View. He had done this 1,000 times. Late-night couches, morning talk shows, press junkets in hotel hallways, so cramped they felt like closets. But today, something tugged at him. An instinct, a flicker of tension in the air like static before a lightning strike. He couldn't see it yet, but the audience could sense something too. The excited chatter felt tight, compressed, as if everyone was waiting for a truth to snap. Producers rushed around him with last-minute adjustments. Powder on the forehead, mic clipped, collar straightened. Ryan flashed that trademark smirk, charming the nearest sound tech with a joke about how he felt like an overseasoned Thanksgiving turkey. They laughed, but their eyes darted toward the stage where Whoopi Goldberg sat with the other hosts, her expression unreadable. Ryan noticed it. He wasn't sure why, but the look lingered in the back of his mind. A heaviness, a question waiting to be asked. The stage manager pointed. "Ryan, you're on." The doors slid open, lights flared, and applause erupted like an artificial sunrise. Ryan stepped onto the stage, hands raised, his smile smooth and practiced, but behind the shine, his pulse thumped. He scanned the hosts, Joy with her familiar grin, Sunny with her poised curiosity, and Whoopi leaning back, arms crossed, observing him like someone preparing for a conversation with sharp edges. He took his seat, exhaling a playful sigh. "Morning, ladies. I'm thrilled to be here. My therapist says I need to be around more strong female energy." Laughter bloomed across the audience. Easy, innocent, exactly the tone he wanted. But Whoopi didn't laugh. She didn't even smirk. She waited until the noise died down, leaned forward, and spoke with a voice so steady it sliced through Ryan's playful facade. "So, Ryan, let's talk about that comment you made last week." A hush. A shift. Like the temperature of the room dropped a few degrees. Ryan blinked, trying to hold on to the smile. "Oh, which comment?" "I make about 40 questionable comments a day." The audience laughed, but nervously this time. Still, Whoopi's eyes didn't move. "You know the one," she said. And suddenly his mind raced. He had said a lot of things last week. Red carpets, interviews, an Instagram story he posted at 2 a.m. while delirious from jet lag. Which one was she about to pull? And why was she pulling it now? Here, Liv? Joy jumped in gently. "Whoopi, you're talking about the interview he did during the charity fundraiser, right?" Whoopi nodded. "Oh, I am. The one where Ryan joked about talk show hosts always twisting your words." A ripple rolled through the audience, soft gasps, shifting seats, someone coughing too loudly. Ryan's eyebrows lifted. "Ah, that one." Whoopi continued, voice calm but with that unmistakable steel underneath. "You said, and I quote, talk show hosts love creating drama where there isn't any." Ryan winced, a dramatic cringe for comedic effect. "Okay, yes, I said that. But in my defense, I say a lot of things. My brain is like a runaway toddler. You can't expect it to behave." The audience chuckled again, grateful for the levity, but Whoopi didn't give them a chance to breathe. "But you weren't joking, were you?" she asked softly. Ryan felt it, the floor of the conversation cracking open. Sunny glanced between them, tense. Joy shifted forward, ready to smooth things over. But Whoopi wasn't done. "I've been doing this for a long time," she said. "And when someone throws shade on what we do, on the respect we try to give to our guests, I take that seriously." Ryan leaned back slowly, the smile fading. This wasn't banter. This wasn't playful sparring. This was a line she had drawn, and he had stepped on it without realizing. He took a breath. "Whoopi, I was joking. Truly. I poke fun at everything, myself included." She held his gaze. "But when you say something like that, people believe it. They think we're here to tear people down instead of having real conversations. You have a big platform, Ryan. People listen to you." Ryan felt the eyes of the audience on him. Hundreds of stares, waiting, judging, consuming every twitch of his expression. Something inside him tightened. He wasn't angry yet, but he felt the cornered sting of someone accused of an intention they never meant to have. He leaned forward too. "I get that, but if we're being honest, sometimes the drama is real. Sometimes it feels like the only way to get people to tune in is by stirring the pot a little." The host stiffened. The audience murmured. The air turned electric. Whoopi's eyebrow lifted. "Oh, So you're saying we're just stirring the pot with you right now? Ryan paused. A dangerous pause. A pause that stretched so long that the lights seemed to hum louder. Then he spoke, voice softer but edged. I'm saying, if you're calling me out for a joke, it feels like maybe the pot was already stirred before I even walked in. A gasp rippled through the room, sharp and collective, like the audience had been slapped by the tension snapping between them. Joy raised her hands. Okay, let's not let this get too spicy. But it was too late. Whoopi sat up straighter. You think this is about stirring the pot? No, this is about respect. We invite guests on this show because we want their voices, their stories. And when someone goes around saying talk show hosts twist things, Ryan cut in, voice growing firmer. I didn't say The View twists things. I didn't say you twist things. I joked about interviews being stressful. And I'm allowed to joke, Whoopi. That's literally my job. She narrowed her eyes slightly, not in anger, but in a kind of sharp, disappointed challenge. And I'm allowed to respond when the joke feels like it hits a little too close to home. The audience was frozen. No coughing now, no whispering, no shifting. Just the silent pressure of 1,000 unseen breaths held at once. Ryan exhaled slowly. He knew he had two choices, back down gently or push back. He chose something in the middle. Whoopi, he said, voice low but steady. I respect you. I always have. But I won't pretend a joke was something more than it was. If people twist it, that's on them. Not me. And certainly not on you. Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe, or irritation, or even begrudging respect. It was hard to tell. Sunny interjected carefully. Maybe it's a misunderstanding that's being amplified by social media. Everything gets taken out of context nowadays. Ryan nodded gratefully. Yes, exactly. And honestly, sometimes it feels like I can't breathe without someone interpreting it as a political statement or a secret message or a new brand partnership. The audience laughed, this time genuinely, relieved for the break in tension. But the energy hadn't dissipated. It had simply changed shape, less explosive, more simmering. Whoopi leaned back again, arms resting on the chair. Her voice dropped to a calmer, deeper tone. Look, Ryan, jokes are jokes. But when a public figure speaks, people listen. And when you've been in this industry as long as I have, you learn that words don't just fly away. They stick. So if you say something that sounds like an accusation, expect people to ask you about it. Ryan nodded. I get that. And I'm here. I showed up. I could have avoided this. I could have done the interview from a safe distance. But I came here to talk, to clear the air, even if it means facing the fire. The audience clapped softly, supportive, maybe sympathetic. Whoopi's expression softened just a hair. Fair enough, she said. But it wasn't over. Everyone in the room felt that this was only the beginning of something bigger. Something shaking underneath the floorboards of this interview, waiting for the right moment to break through. Ryan adjusted himself in his chair, rubbing his palms together. So, where do we go from here? He asked. Whoopi gave the faintest smile. That depends on how honest you're willing to be. The lights felt brighter. The room felt tighter. And Ryan Reynolds, for the first time in a long time, felt the heat of a conversation that wasn't scripted, wasn't controlled, and wasn't wrapped in humor. The real story was about to begin, and everyone watching knew it. The studio felt different now. Not hostile, not warm, just charged, like the air held too much electricity and no one knew where it would strike next. Ryan leaned back slightly, adjusting his jacket, but the tension clung to him like static. The audience sensed it too. They were silent in that expectant way people get when they suspect they're witnessing a moment that will be talked about for a long time. Whoopi's fingers tapped lightly on the table, a gesture so small yet somehow loud in the quiet. Sunny watched them both closely, like a mediator waiting for the right opportunity to step in. Joy looked like she was praying Ryan would crack a joke to break the tension before someone snapped in half. Ryan swallowed, not nervous exactly, but aware. Aware of the cameras. Aware of the millions who would see this moment. Aware of Whoopi Goldberg staring at him as if she could see every intention inside his mind. She leaned forward again, elbows on the table. You want honesty? She asked. All right, let's go there. Ryan nodded once. Let's. Her gaze didn't waver. You said the pot was already stirred before you walked in. What did you mean by that? Ryan felt his jaw tighten. He knew this question was coming. He had invited it by pushing back earlier. And now he had to choose whether to deflect or dive. He chose truth, at least his truth. I mean, he said carefully, that the narrative online has been wild lately. Every interview I do turns into a headline I don't recognize. I talk about my kids. It becomes a debate about parenting. I talk about a movie. Suddenly it's political. And I know it's not always the hosts. Sometimes it's the editors, the outlets, or just people looking for something to be mad about. But it feels like no matter what I say, someone wants to twist it. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others reacting softly. Whoopi didn't blink. And do you think we twist things, Ryan? He looked at her directly. No, not intentionally. But, she pressed. Ryan exhaled slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. He could feel the cameras zooming in. Their mechanical were blending into the hum of the lights. But, he said, voice steady, I think sometimes the show pushes buttons to get reactions. And maybe that's what audiences want. Maybe that's what ratings demand. But it can feel like walking into a ring without realizing you're in a fight. Joy leaned forward. We're not trying to fight you, Ryan. He lifted a hand gently. I know. And I'm not trying to accuse anyone. I'm trying to be honest. If we're talking about words sticking, then let's talk about that on both sides. Whoopi's expression softened for a fraction of a second. Just a fraction. But then she straightened, tone sharpening. You're a smart guy, she said. You're charming, funny, quick. You know exactly how powerful your words are. And you know how powerful ours are. So when you say talk show hosts create drama, people listen. And that affects us. Ryan nodded slowly. And when talk shows drag me for a joke that wasn't meant to hurt anyone, people listen too. And that affects me. A few audience members clapped. Others gasped at the audacity. The air rippled. Sunny spoke then, soft but firm. Let's pull this back for a second. Ryan, you said earlier that everything gets twisted online. Do you feel misunderstood lately? Ryan's eyes flicked to her, grateful for the question. Honestly? Yeah, he said. I do. People forget I'm human. They think I'm this joke machine who never gets tired or frustrated. But I'm allowed to have moments. I'm allowed to speak casually without the world dissecting it like a crime scene. He laughed lightly, but it wasn't humor. It was exhaustion. And sometimes, he continued, I feel like I'm performing even when I don't want to be. Like if I'm not perfectly smooth, perfectly witty, perfectly diplomatic, then I've failed. But I'm not perfect. I say dumb things. Everyone does. The audience nodded empathetically, murmuring in agreement. Whoopi listened closely, her eyes narrowing not in anger, but in thought. Her voice, when she spoke next, had a little more weight and a little less edge. And do you think we expect you to be perfect? Ryan hesitated. You expect me to be responsible, he said. Which is fair. But sometimes responsibility feels like a trap, like I can't win no matter what I say. Silence. A long one. The kind that makes producers nervously pace just out of camera view. Then Whoopi leaned back slightly, crossing her arms. Let me tell you something, she said quietly. When you've been in this business for decades, you get used to people misquoting you, misunderstanding you, misrepresenting you. But you also learn that your voice, your true voice, is the only thing you control. Not headlines, not reactions, not interpretations. Ryan absorbed her words, the gravity of her tone pulling him in. And I'm not mad about your joke, Whoopi added. I'm not. But when you said it, it opened a door for people who already want to tear shows like ours down. It gave them ammunition. And trust me, there are a lot of people out there looking for it. Her voice softened even more. So I needed to ask. I needed to hear from you what you meant. Ryan's expression shifted, surprise, relief, even a hint of guilt flickering through his eyes. I get that, he said quietly. And I guess I didn't think about how my joke might reflect on people who work hard on shows like this. The audience reacted, an audible, ah, some clapping softly. Joy beamed. Sunny smiled warmly. Even Whoopi's mouth twitched toward a smirk. But then, something unexpected happened. Ryan leaned forward, placing his elbows on the table, hands clasped. His voice, previously guarded, now carried something deeper. Something raw. Can I be totally honest? He said. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. Please do. Ryan took a breath. My life has been manic. In the last year. Huge movies, massive press tours, social media noise, constant camera alerts. Every time I walk out of my house, someone has something to say. Every time I close my eyes, I'm thinking about what I might have said wrong. It gets inside your head. Makes you feel like every sentence is a landmine. The audience listened, struck silent. So yeah, Ryan continued, voice thickening just a little. Sometimes I get defensive. Sometimes I joke too hard. Sometimes I deflect. Not because I want to hurt anyone, but because I'm trying to protect myself. Sunny placed a gentle hand over her heart. Joy muttered, "Wow," under her breath. And then Whoopi, who had been listening without interrupting, without challenging, leaned in again. "Ryan," she said softly, "nobody expects you to be invincible." Ryan looked at her, eyes flickering with something genuine. "But I think," she added, "you hold yourself to that standard. And when you feel it slipping, you lash out with humor. That's your armor." A stunned murmur swept the audience. Ryan blinked, caught off guard by the accuracy of her words. Yeah," he said, voice dropping. "That's pretty fair. Humor is a great shield," Whoopi continued. "But sometimes it keeps people from reaching you. And sometimes," she tapped the table lightly, "you hit people with it by accident." Ryan looked down, then back up. His smile was soft this time, not performative. "I think I needed to hear that," he said quietly. The shift in energy was palpable. The tension didn't vanish, but it transformed. It softened, deepened, became more vulnerable. But the moment wasn't gentle for long. Because just as Ryan began to relax, one of the hosts, Alyssa, who had been quiet and observant until now, leaned forward, eyes sharp with curiosity. "Ryan," she said, "can I ask something a little more direct?" He looked at her uncertainly. "Oh, that's usually my line." The audience laughed nervously. Alyssa didn't smile. "Do you ever feel like the person you are publicly, the one we see in interviews, the one who's always funny and composed, is completely different from the person you are privately?" Ryan froze. The question hit him like a slap. Not physically, but emotionally, because it was uncomfortably accurate. He blinked, his heartbeat thudding louder. "That's a big question," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We've got time," Alyssa replied. The audience leaned in. And for the first time all day, Ryan looked unsure. Not defensive. Not annoyed. Just exposed. He cleared his throat, stared at his hands for a moment, then looked up with a rawness that made the room tilt. "Sometimes," he said softly. "Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm living two lives." The audience gasped. Joy's eyes widened. Sunny's mouth parted in shock. Even Whoopi's expression shifted in a way that suggested she hadn't expected that degree of vulnerability. Ryan continued, voice trembling just barely. "The public version of me, the one everyone expects, is always witty, always charming, always composed. But the private version, he's overwhelmed, tired, scared of disappointing people, scared of messing up." A silence fell so heavy it could have crushed the room. "And maybe that's why I make jokes the way I do," Ryan said. "Because humor is the only thing that makes both versions of me feel safe." Whoopi inhaled deeply, her gaze softening. "Thank you for saying that." Ryan nodded, but he wasn't done. The floodgates had opened. "And maybe," he added, voice firmer now, "that's why I reacted the way I did earlier. Because I feel like I'm constantly framed as something I'm not. And when you brought up that joke, it hit a nerve." Whoopi leaned in, nodding slowly. "Then let's talk about that nerve." Ryan blinked, surprised. And just like that, the tension sparked again. Sharper, more personal, more dangerous. The audience braced. The hosts straightened. Even Ryan felt the shift like a tremor beneath his feet. Whatever came next wasn't just confrontation. It was revelation. And the storm was only growing stronger. The silence that hung after Whoopi's last sentence wasn't empty. It was loaded, thick enough to feel, sharp enough to cut. Ryan straightened in his seat, caught between vulnerability and the instinct to armor up again. The crowd felt the shift instantly. No rustling, no whispering, just breathless anticipation. Whoopi locked eyes with him, steady, unflinching. "Let's talk about that nerve," she repeated. Ryan swallowed once, his Adam's apple bobbing. He wasn't afraid, not exactly, but he wasn't fully stable either. Something inside him felt cracked open, and he knew that whatever came next had the power to either heal or deepen that crack. "Okay," he said finally, voice low. "Let's talk." Sunny clasped her hands together, sensing the weight of the moment. Joy slid her glasses down slightly, prepared for impact. Alyssa watched with a focus that suggested she knew they were crossing into territory that would be replayed across social media for weeks. Whoopi leaned back just a bit, her gaze softening. Not weakly, but in that way an elder offers truth without cruelty. "You said the joke hit a nerve," she began. "A deep one. And you also said you feel misunderstood. So I want to know something honestly." She paused, letting it breathe. "Do you feel like you're losing control of the narrative of your own life?" Ryan's fingers tightened around each other. That question wasn't sharp. It was accurate. Too accurate. He let out a breath that trembled at the edges. Yeah, he admitted. I do. A few audience members exhaled audibly, as if they had been holding their own breath waiting for his response. Ryan continued, voice shaky but genuine. It feels like the second I step outside my home, I become something else. A symbol, a headline, a joke. Not a person. And I'm tired. Really tired. Sunny nodded encouragingly. Alyssa's face softened. But Whoopi didn't look away. You know, she said thoughtfully, people think fame makes you strong, untouchable. But sometimes it makes you more fragile. Ryan met her gaze with a kind of startled recognition. Whoopi went on, voice steady. And when you feel fragile, it's easy to lash out, especially when you think someone's taking a swing at you. Ryan blinked, caught in the truth of it. That wasn't what I meant to do, he said quietly. I wasn't trying to take a swing at you or the show. I was just tired. And frustrated. Whoopi nodded once. And that's valid. But you should know, when you make a joke like that, even casually, it doesn't just live for one night. It gets replayed, repurposed, and weaponized. Against us. Against you. Against anyone who's part of this business. Ryan exhaled. Yeah, I see that now. But Alyssa wasn't done. Ryan, she said gently, though her voice carried firmness. You said earlier that you feel like you're living two lives. Public and private. So let me ask, when you walked in here today, which version of you showed up? The question stunned him. Ryan stared at her, eyes narrowing in contemplation. His lips parted, then closed again. He didn't know how to answer at first, not truthfully. Finally, he spoke. Both, he said softly. Or at least both are trying. The audience murmured, recognizing the rawness of the moment. Ryan continued. I walked in here trying to be the funny guy everyone wants. The guy who cracks jokes, makes everything lighter. But part of me walked in here tired. And scared I'd mess up again. Sunny leaned in. You're not messing up. You're being honest. Ryan gave a small smile. I hope so. But Whoopi watched him with a deeper question forming behind her eyes. She didn't speak immediately. She let the air settle, let Ryan's words float across the studio and return to him in silence. Then she asked the question that shifted the room, slowly, deliberately. Ryan, who are you trying to protect? He froze. The crowd's reaction was instant and soft, and oh, that wasn't dramatic, but empathetic. Because they heard the meaning behind it. Ryan's mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. His eyes darted slightly, like he was scanning the floor for something solid to stand on. He stopped, swallowed, tried again. I don't know. Whoopi didn't let that slide. Yes, you do, she said gently but pointedly. Ryan stared at her like she had read his mind. His shoulders sank. My family, he whispered. I'm trying to protect my family. A collective shiver passed through the audience. This wasn't celebrity drama anymore. This was human. Ryan took a breath that trembled. I've worked so hard to keep them out of the chaos. My wife, my kids, they're the only thing that matters. And when people take my words and twist them, it feels like they're inching closer to that part of my life I can't let them touch. Whoopi nodded slowly, as if she understood this more deeply than anyone else in the room. That makes sense, she said softly. And it explains a lot. Ryan wiped a hand across his jaw, his voice deepening with emotion. I thought making jokes would keep things light, keep the spotlight off anything too real. But instead, somehow the jokes became the spotlight. And suddenly everything I say feels like a risk. The room absorbed his words like a sponge. Sunny leaned forward, her voice warm and grounding. That's a heavy burden to carry. Ryan sighed. It is. Alyssa's voice chimed in again, noticeably gentler. And that pressure, you've been holding it alone? Ryan gave a humorless laugh. Mostly, yeah. I mean, I have people I trust, but they don't live inside my head. They don't feel the weight the same way. Whoopi nodded. And that's the nerve, isn't it? You're carrying too much. And when one more thing gets added, even a small thing, it feels like an attack. Ryan looked at her with quiet vulnerability. Yeah, that's exactly it. The atmosphere shifted again, less adversarial now, more introspective. But tension still lingered, like a storm cloud that hadn't fully passed. Joy, sensing the emotional weight, spoke up. Ryan, no one here wants to hurt you. Truly. We ask questions because conversations matter. And you showed up today when you could have avoided this entirely. That says something. Ryan smiled softly. It says my publicist begged me to. The audience laughed, really laughed, for the first time in several minutes. Even Whoopi cracked a small smile. But the fragile peace didn't last. Because just as Ryan began to relax, Whoopi leaned forward again, her expression thoughtful but intense. "Ryan," she said quietly, "I hear you. I really do. But I also want to ask you something, not as a host, but as someone who's been in this industry for decades." Ryan nodded cautiously. "Do you understand," she continued, "why your joke upset people here?" His smile faded. "I think so," he said slowly. "Because it felt like I was attacking talk shows." "Not talk shows," Whoopi corrected. "Us." The word landed like a weight. Ryan's eyes widened slightly. "Whoopi, I didn't mean it that way." "I know you didn't," she said. "But that's how it felt." Ryan inhaled, processing. And then he asked something no one expected. "What do you want to hear from me?" The question stunned the studio. Not because it was confrontational, but because it was surrender. It was openness. Whoopi blinked, surprised. "I don't want anything rehearsed," she said. "I don't want a PR statement. I want you to speak from that place you spoke from earlier. The real one. Not the shield. Not the public version." Ryan's throat tightened. He nodded slowly. "Okay." He took a breath. And then, with a voice that cracked at the edges, he said, "I'm sorry. I really am. Not because I got caught or because someone called me out, but because if something I said hurt you, any of you, that wasn't my intention. I use humor to cope, to deflect, but sometimes that means I don't see the full picture. And I never want to disrespect people who give me a platform to share my work or my truth." The audience exhaled in a wave of emotion. A few people clapped. Others nodded, visibly moved. Whoopi's eyes softened, truly softened. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That means something." Ryan nodded again, relief spreading across his face. But the moment wasn't finished. Alyssa spoke one more time, carefully. "Ryan, one more question." Ryan laughed nervously. "You're really making sure I leave with no emotional walls left, huh?" Alyssa smiled. "Just one. Promise." He gestured for her to continue. She leaned in. "After all this, after everything you've said today, who do you want to be? The public version? The private version? Or something new?" Ryan froze. Completely frozen. The question echoed in the studio. A question bigger than the argument. Bigger than the show. Bigger than the moment. Ryan stared at the desk, then at the audience, then at the hosts, and finally at the camera. "I don't know yet." His voice was almost a whisper. "But I think today, I took the first step toward figuring it out." The audience erupted into applause. Not loud, not chaotic, but warm and supportive. A rare kind of applause. One that felt like understanding. But little did they know. The most explosive moment of the interview was still waiting. Just beneath the surface. Ready to detonate at the slightest spark. Because emotional breakthroughs were one thing. But the storm that came next would shake the studio in a way none of them saw coming. The applause was still fading when the atmosphere in the studio shifted again. Subtly at first, like a cold draft sneaking under a door. Ryan felt it before he understood it. A tingling sensation at the base of his spine, a whisper of tension sliding back into the room. Whoopi noticed it too. Her eyes narrowed, not in anger but in intuition, an instinct honed by decades in front of cameras. Something wasn't finished. Something big was still coming. The audience sensed it. Their clapping softened into a collective hush, heads tilting, bodies leaning forward. Tension, real tension, returned like a slow-moving tide. Sunny looked around as if searching for the source of it. Joy cleared her throat. Alyssa adjusted her cue cards. And Ryan? Ryan shifted in his chair, suddenly alert. His eyes flicked toward the producers at the side of the stage. Two of them whispering urgently, another tapping a tablet, a fourth wearing the expression of someone who knows a moment is spiraling beyond their control. Then Whoopi leaned in. Heavy. Intentional. "Ryan," she said quietly, "there's something else." He blinked. "Something else?" "Yes," she said. "Because while it's good you apologized, something happened before this interview. Something you don't know about." The crowd murmured. Ryan's shoulders stiffened. "What happened?" he asked, cautious. Whoopi inhaled slowly, her voice lowering into that deep, iconic timbre that signals a serious turn. "Your joke from last week. The one about talk show hosts twisting your words. Someone leaked an extended version of that clip this morning." Ryan froze. Completely. The room reacted instantly, gasps cracking across the audience like lightning. Ryan leaned back, eyes narrowing. "What do you mean extended version?" Whoopi glanced toward a producer, who hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "It was trending before you came on," she said. "You didn't see it?" "No," Ryan said, voice tense. What's in it? Whoopi tapped her finger against the table, slow and firm. You didn't just talk about talk show hosts twisting things. You mentioned this show directly. The audience erupted in a shocked wave. Ryan's breath hitched. That's impossible, he said. I never. But Whoopi cut him off gently but unflinchingly. I heard it myself. And Ryan, it doesn't sound like a joke. Ryan's pulse roared in his ears. His chest tightened, not in anger but in pure alarm. I didn't say anything about the view, he insisted. I know that for a fact. Joy raised a hand. We know edits can be misleading. Sunny nodded. It could have been manipulated. But Alyssa's expression was different, concern mixed with something Ryan couldn't read. Ryan, she said softly, people online are saying you called this show the top example of twisting narratives in daytime TV. The studio gasped louder than before. A few people in the audience covered their mouths. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Ryan felt a surge of heat rise through him. I never said that, he snapped, louder than he intended. Whoopi didn't flinch. Then say that. I just did. Say it to them. She gestured toward the camera. The camera's red recording light glowed like a bullseye. The room went still. Ryan stared at the lens, jaw tight, breathing sharp. I didn't say it, he said firmly. That clip is edited. That's not my voice or my words or my meaning. And I would never, never call this show an example of twisting narratives. The audience exhaled, but not fully, because tension still crackled. Whoopi studied him, not judging, but evaluating, weighing truth. And then she asked the question that detonated the moment. Then who put that clip out? Ryan stared at her, stunned. What? Someone wanted that out there today, she continued. Someone wanted this moment. This tension. This confrontation. Sunny added slowly. It came out an hour before you arrived. That's too convenient. Joy murmured. This wasn't an accident. Ryan felt his pulse hammering against his ribs. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a setup. A deliberate escalation. He leaned forward, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Are you saying someone's trying to stir up drama between me and this show? Whoopi didn't answer directly, but the look in her eyes said everything. This industry, she said, has people who make their money off conflict, off headlines, off tearing relationships apart. And when a clip like that appears, just hours before an appearance, Ryan finished the sentence for her. It's sabotage. The crowd gasped again, this time less from shock and more from the thrill of revelation. Sunny looked at Ryan with concern. Do you know anyone who'd leak something like that? Ryan shook his head, frustrated. Could be anyone. A tabloid editor. Someone from a rival project. Someone who thinks stirring drama gets clicks. Alyssa added, or someone who wants to paint you as a villain. Ryan rubbed his hands together, emotion flaring. And it worked, he said bitterly. Look where we are. But Whoopi wasn't letting him spiral. Her tone hardened, but with purpose. Ryan, look at me. He did. Eyes sharp, strained, vulnerable. You came here today when you didn't have to. You took accountability. You told the truth. And right now you have a choice. You either let this leak control the narrative, or you take it back. Ryan breathed out slowly. Something inside him steadied. Centered. He faced the camera again. I know how this business works, he said, voice firm. People will believe what they want. But here's my truth. I respect this show. I respect these hosts. And anyone who edits a clip to make it look otherwise is doing it for their own gain, not mine. The audience applauded, this time with force, with conviction, with clarity. Ryan continued, people love drama. But today, I'm done feeding it. A cheer broke through the audience. But then, at the peak of the applause, a shout erupted from the back rows. A woman stood up, pointing directly at Ryan. Then why did you like the tweet? She yelled. The studio froze. Again, for what felt like the 100th time. Ryan blinked hard, thrown. What tweet? The woman, shaking with emotional intensity, shouted. The tweet calling the view irrelevant. Gasps exploded around the room. The hosts turned to Ryan in shock. Producers dove out of frame, scrambling. Ryan looked utterly blindsided. I didn't like any tweet. He paused. Swallowed. Eyes widening. He suddenly understood. Or feared he did. He pulled out his phone, thumb trembling, and opened the app. The hosts leaned in. The audience leaned in. The entire studio held its breath. Ryan scrolled. His breath caught. There it was. A liked tweet. Calling the view outdated. Irrelevant. Biased. His face drained. I didn't like this, he whispered. I didn't. Then realization hit him like a crashing wave. My account was hacked. The audience exploded, some gasping, some shouting, some whispering furiously. Sunny covered her mouth. Joy said, "Oh my God." Alyssa looked horrified. And Whoopi? Whoopi stared at him with wide, stunned eyes. Ryan stood up, slowly, agonizingly, his voice shaking with equal parts anger and humiliation. "Someone set me up." The room erupted. Cameras swung. Producers shouted. Fans in the audience grabbed their phones, recording every second. Ryan paced, hands on his head, fighting for composure. "I would never say this stuff," he said. "Not even as a joke. This is someone trying to start a war." Whoopi rose from her seat. Not confrontationally, not angrily, but with steady, commanding presence. "Ryan," she said, "look at me." He stopped, turned to her, eyes red with emotion. "We believe you." The room went silent, instantly. Ryan stared at her, raw and shaken. "You do?" Whoopi nodded firmly. "I've been in this business longer than some people here have been alive. I know the difference between a mistake and a setup." Ryan's throat tightened. She stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "And someone tried to play you today. But they failed, because you showed up with honesty. And that matters more than any leaked clip or fake tweet." The audience applauded, loudly, passionately united. Ryan's chest rose and fell as relief crashed over him. He sat back down slowly, overwhelmed. Sunny reached across and squeezed his hand. Joy patted his shoulder. Alyssa nodded sympathetically. Whoopi returned to her seat. And then, after a long, emotional moment, Ryan spoke. "Thank you," he said softly. "All of you. I came here expecting a normal interview, and instead I got a confrontation, a breakdown, a revelation, and a crisis." A laugh rippled through the audience. "But I also got something rare, a real conversation. A chance to tell the truth before the internet twisted it into something else." The host smiled, nodding. Ryan continued, voice strong now. "And whoever tried to stir this up, I hope they're watching. Because you didn't break anything here. You didn't tear anything down. All you did was push us into a moment of honesty." The audience erupted again. Louder. Stronger. The producers signaled wrap, but no one dared cut the energy. Ryan looked at the hosts, all of them. "Thank you for letting me explain. Thank you for listening. And thank you for not assuming the worst." Whoopi smirked. "Well, you gave us a roller coaster." Ryan laughed. "Next time I'll stick to promoting the movie." The crowd roared. The camera zoomed out, the studio lights dimming slightly as the show moved toward commercial. But the moment was far from over. Because by the time the interview ended, the internet had already exploded. Clips went viral. Tweets flew. Headlines appeared within minutes. Ryan Reynolds confronts Whoopi live. The View hosts defend Reynolds after shocking leak. Reynolds breaks down in raw moment. Fraudulent clip triggers on-screen showdown. Fans were divided. Celebrities chimed in. Talk show analysts dissected every frame. Conspiracy theories ignited like wildfire. Some said Ryan was framed. Others insisted he was exposed. Some believed Whoopi orchestrated the whole thing. Others claimed the producers did. But one thing was undeniable. Everyone was talking about what happened. The episode became the most-watched segment of The View that season. Ryan's emotional honesty trended globally. And the mysterious leak became a media mystery that lasted for weeks. In the aftermath, Ryan posted a heartfelt statement clearing the air and thanking The View hosts for their grace. Whoopi responded with a simple, iconic line. "Truth always wins." And the internet shockingly agreed. So now, as the lights fade and the cameras cool, the question is, what do you think? Was Ryan Reynolds set up? Was it a misunderstanding? Or was this the rawest, realest moment daytime TV has seen in years? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, if you want more explosive, dramatic, cinematic celebrity stories like this, subscribe to Stage View. And tap like so you never miss when the next Hollywood storm hits. The stage is yours. What's your take?